The story depicts a young man who is feeble and bedridden. Suddenly, he opens his eyes and lets out a piercing scream, realizing that he had been beheaded by the Demon Queen just moments ago. Was it all just a dream, he wondered? As he looks around, he finds himself in an unfamiliar place, certainly not his own room. The surroundings seem so luxurious. It is the heavenly demon divine cult inner sanctuary. Soon after he sensed someone approaching. A maid named Manhwa enters the room carrying a tray of food. However, she notices that he is not in his bed. Without making any noise, the young lord stealthily sneaks up behind her, holding a chopstick to her neck as a threat. He demands to know who she is and whether she belongs to the Steel Blood Fortress. After realizing she's just a servant, Manhwa implores the young lord to calm down and tell her what's going on. However, he insists that she stop talking nonsense and tell him the truth. He questions her about how he ended up in this room, to which she reveals that he has been here for the past 6 months, unconscious due to QI blockage. He had only awoken 2 nights ago. As he listened to her, the protagonist couldn't help but wonder, what the hell is she saying? He lost consciousness because of QI blockage? He vividly recalled dying just moments ago, and the explanation he was receiving made little sense to him. As their conversation continued, his attention was drawn to the reflection in the mirror. But what he saw there was not himself, it was someone else entirely. The shock of this realization left him reeling. Who is this bastard? He wondered, still struggling to comprehend the situation. As he grappled with the strangeness of it all, he couldn't help but wonder if this was some form of reincarnation. Memories flooded back to him, memories of a previous life as a skilled assassin known as Hajin. He had fought against countless enemies, single-handedly taking them down one by one. Despite being vastly outnumbered, he had emerged victorious time and time again. The enemies he faced had thought they were up against just one man, but he had proven them wrong. Having lived in servitude for 30 years, Hajin was determined to hold on to his newfound freedom at any cost. He was not willing to let his life be taken away from him so easily. And so, he stood his ground as the attackers closed in on him, his resolve unshaken. To the amazement of the other men, Hajin stood atop their swords, showing no fear or hesitation. And when the time was right, he leaped from the swords with an agility that left them all stunned. As the attackers realized that they were dealing with one of the top 10 strongest martial masters and the world's greatest assassin, they knew that they were in for a fierce battle. But Hajin was not one to back down. He launched a powerful attack that took them all by surprise, and in no time, he had defeated every last one of them. After a long and grueling battle, Hajin began to feel the weariness and injuries catching up to him. He wondered if the pursuers had finally given up, but to his surprise, they continued to chase after him relentlessly. The other side clearly underestimated Hajin's tenacity and strength, even after fighting until his blade became dull. Despite the overwhelming odds against him, Hajin refused to back down. He warned the attackers not to stand in his way, and with a swift motion, he used his martial technique to eliminate them. But the cost of the fight had taken a heavy toll on Hajin, and he was left exhausted and badly injured. As he struggled to catch his breath, he remembered someone's words that had haunted him for a long time. Hajin, you may be the world's best assassin, but you are nothing but a hunting dog for the righteous Heavenly Alliance leader. A soulless demon who kills without mercy or remorse. What do you know of life? Even the afterworld curses you for all the lives you have taken. Your life is nothing but a trail of death. As Hajin struggled to stay alive, he knew he had to keep going. He had spent his entire life serving the righteous Heavenly Alliance like a dog, but now, he had finally cut the ropes that bound him and had a chance at true freedom. He knew that if he could make it to the secret location nearby, he could heal his wounds with elixirs and herbs and finally be free. But as he stumbled through the forest, hunger gnawed at him. He hadn't eaten anything substantial in 7 days and was beginning to lose his mind with hunger. Just as he was about to collapse, he was suddenly attacked by an unknown assailant. Even Hajin, the world's greatest assassin, had failed to detect the stealthy attacker's approach. With his waning strength, Hajin knew he had to fight for his life once again. Hajin and the mysterious attacker engaged in a fierce battle for survival. Despite being weakened from his previous fight, Hajin was able to recognize the attacker's martial technique and realize that he was facing the renowned Death Lord, the strongest assassin in the southern Central Plains. Hajin understood why the righteous Heavenly Alliance was pursuing him, but he never expected to face off against the Steel King's 8 elites and Death Lord. With a mix of frustration and anger, Hajin confronted Death Lord, questioning whether he truly deserved his status as one of the top 10 strongest martial masters. Hajin refused to let Death Lord defeat him in his weakened state, and swore to cut him into pieces. Despite Death Lord's relentless attacks, Hajin ultimately emerged victorious, swiftly killing Death Lord with his sword. After slaying Death Lord, Hajin beckoned the person observing their battle from the shadows to reveal themselves. When they stepped into the light, Hajin was taken aback as it was none other than the secret demon queen herself. She remarked that it was an honor for Hajin to still remember her after 6 long years. The scene then shifts to the first elder of the righteous Heavenly Alliance, Young Ilryong, as his subordinate informs him that all the corpses in the area belong to the martial masters of the Steel Blood Fortress. The news shocks the first elder, who never expected Hajin to penetrate the inescapable net formation they had deployed and kill so many Steel Blood Fortress martial masters. Hajin truly lives up to his reputation as the Assassin King. Following this revelation, the elder instructs his subordinate to track the death energy of the secret demon queen, as that is likely where Hajin can be found. As the scene continued, Hajin was taken aback by the involvement of this insane murderer. He couldn't believe that they were using any means necessary to capture him, even resorting to such dangerous and unpredictable allies. The demon queen herself was maintaining her youthful appearance through a rejuvenation technique, despite being over 60 years old. Her unassuming face might make people think she couldn't harm a fly, but in truth, she was a ruthless killer who couldn't sleep a single night without killing someone. Despite the situation, Hajin had one more trick up his sleeve. The demon queen expressed her disappointment that he had drawn his sword first, given their special relationship. Hajin retorted, "Special relationship, my ass," and demanded that she stop spouting such nonsense. The demon queen then commented on Hajin's condition, suggesting that he wouldn't last long against her. Hajin replied, "Why don't you see how many strikes I can withstand? Why should I be afraid of a 60-year-old grandma who only knows how to talk shit?" The demon queen then warned Hajin not to call her grandma. If he called her grandma one more time, she would pull out his spine, no matter how much he begged her not to. Hajin then told the demon queen that it was so scary, and she became more sensitive to age when he hadn't seen her. "Grandma." Hajin's words then enraged the demon queen, but soon she calmed down and told Hajin that it was true that he was raised by the righteous Heavenly Alliance as their best assassin. It was logical for the Steel Blood Fortress to seek the demon queen's assistance in capturing Hajin. His core energy was infused with disgustingly pure and virtuous energies, which undoubtedly belonged to the great 9 sects. The demon queen was curious about how impressive Hajin's abilities were. Though they aimed to apprehend him unharmed, she wondered how he had managed to defeat all those masters. It was evident that Hajin had not only mastered the 9 sects' martial techniques but also the secret ones. Hajin's realization dawned upon him as he understood the true motives of the demon queen. She was after the hidden martial prowess of the 9 sects and confidential information about the righteous Heavenly Alliance. However, he knew that the demon queen had no intention of revealing these secrets to the Steel Blood Fortress, even if she managed to obtain them. Confirming Hajin's suspicion, the demon queen acknowledged that his guess was correct. Surprisingly, she revealed that she didn't even require the request of the Steel Blood Fortress nor the secrets of the righteous Heavenly Alliance. She desired the martial prowess of the 9 sects, and offered Hajin a deal. If he revealed it to the demon queen, she would spare his life. However, the proposition was unfair as Hajin was already dying. Shortly after, the demon queen mentioned the blood parasite, which astonished Hajin. The blood parasite would inflict punishment on those who betrayed the righteous Heavenly Alliance, determining their life and death. The leader of the righteous Heavenly Alliance had complete control over their fate, thanks to the blood parasite within their bodies. Due to this, Hajin could never abandon the righteous Heavenly Alliance. The Demon Queen told Hajin that she could remove the blood parasite, freeing him from any concerns related to the righteous Heavenly Alliance, whether he exposed the 9 sects' hidden martial prowess or other secrets. As a practitioner of the demonic arts of the god of death, the Demon Queen was well versed in toxins and poisons. With her expertise, she could eliminate the blood parasite inside Hajin's body. If Hajin shared the 9 sects' martial prowess with her, the Demon Queen would release him. After hearing the Demon Queen's offer, Hajin laughed at her and informed her that he had already learned how to expel the blood parasite 5 years ago. However, he needed to reach a higher level to break through the inescapable net formation, and it had taken him quite a long time to train for it. He advised the Demon Queen to stop uttering nonsense because he knew her detestable nature. 30 years of his life had been taken away by those bastards, and he would no longer be fooled by anyone else. The Demon Queen threatened Hajin that she never let anyone live after insulting her, but Hajin's eyes conveyed that he would never teach her martial prowess. So the Demon Queen attacked Hajin, resulting in a fierce battle between them, each unleashing their strongest martial powers to defeat the other. During the fight, the Demon Queen stabbed her nails into Hajin's hand. But before she could deliver a fatal blow, the first elder appeared and swiftly cut off Hajin's limbs. Seizing the opportunity, the Demon Queen plunged her hand through Hajin's chest and then decapitated him, ensuring that he would never speak again. In his final moments, as he drew his last breath, Hajin pondered whether this was to be his wretched fate. All he had ever wanted was an ordinary life, to be an ordinary man, just like any other human being. Was that too much to ask for? If only he could have another chance. In the present time, somewhere in a heavenly inner sanctuary of the divine demon cult, the 4th young lord was conferring with the physician. With a solemn tone, the physician informed him that he had just examined the 3rd young lord, Seorian, and predicted that he would not survive the night. Upon hearing this news, the 4th young lord cannot help but think that things are unfolding in his favor, perhaps even better than anticipated. The story then shifts to the perspective of the 3rd young lord, who is consumed with confusion as he suddenly finds himself reincarnated in a foreign body. As he tries to make sense of his surroundings, he begins to question where he is and what has happened to him. After opening the door to his room, he is left in shock, unable to fathom how such a place could exist in the world of Mirim. Just then, his attention is drawn to the sight of 2 men approaching him. In a state of uncertainty, he cannot help but wonder who they might be and what their intentions are. As they approached the room, the group included a physician and the first loyal guard of the demon cult, Mu Dam. Upon seeing the 3rd young lord, the physician was taken aback, clearly surprised by the young lord's appearance. However, Mu Dam greeted the young lord warmly, offering congratulations on his recovery. As the realization dawned on him, the protagonist couldn't help but feel a shock surge through his entire being. It suddenly became clear to him that he had been reincarnated as the 3rd young lord of the Heavenly Demon Divine Cult. The Heavenly Demon Divine Cult, also known as the 1,000-Year Demonic Cult, had a notorious reputation as the oldest and most malevolent demonic power of this generation. Founded by a Mirim master several thousand years ago, their martial prowess was unparalleled, making them the strongest force in the entire Mirim world. Just the mere presence of the cult was enough to evoke anxiety and chaos amongst the populace. Despite their immense power, they were outnumbered in terms of sheer numbers by the Federation of the Righteous Heavenly Alliance and the Steel Blood Fortress. These 3 groups together were referred to as the Powerful Triad, with the Heavenly Demon being held in higher regard than war and pandemics. The world at large considered them to be a formidable force to be reckoned with, and their reputation as such had only continued to grow over time. Meanwhile, after his encounter with the 3rd young lord, Mu Dam quickly made his way to report to the demon lord of the Heavenly Demon Cult. With a deep bow, he informed the demon lord that the young lord had awakened but had unfortunately lost all of his martial prowess due to overextension. After hearing the report, Mudam respectfully inquired about the demon lord's wishes regarding the third young lord. The demon lord instructed Mudam to refrain from providing any further updates until the closing ceremony, which was still 3 months away. With that, Mudam bowed once more and took his leave, expressing his sincere hope that the demon lord would succeed in his great undertaking. In the following scene, the third young lord ponders on how he ended up in this place and questions whether he really obtained a second life. However, the fact that he finds himself in the demon cult raises concerns. Despite this, he remains calm and focuses on grasping the current situation and planning for the future. Last night, he attempted to spy on people using his stealth technique, but he quickly realized that his weakened state made it difficult to execute the technique. He eventually overhears 2 demon cult disciples discussing him, noting that the strongest among the 7 demon cult disciples, the third young lord, is awake again. A bloody hierarchical battle will start again. It's a miracle to wake up after 6 months from a state of chi blockage. One of the disciples suggests that the young lord has lost all of his martial prowess, but if he still has some remaining, then he really lives up to his nickname, the monstrous demon. Due to the awakening of the monstrous demon, it is likely that it will feed on multiple individuals, draining them completely. After being humiliated by what he had heard, the protagonist couldn't help but feel a sense of embarrassment. It became clear to him that the body's previous owner was quite the troublemaker. However, despite the situation, the protagonist remained determined to find a way out of this demon cult. Although it was just an hour, last night's stealth technique was too much for that body. It was truly remarkable that this body was still functioning, despite being equivalent to that of an 80-year-old geezer. The first priority for the protagonist was to regain control over his body. Upon examining his body, he realized that his 8 extraordinary meridians were in disarray. With his knowledge and expertise, the protagonist worked to remove the small and rotten Danjian. As he did so, the surrounding air became damp, but with the help of the Boundless technique, the protagonist was able to expel the clouded energy from his body. Having lived a past life where he mastered several martial arts techniques from 9 sects, the protagonist had managed to create his very own martial prowess, the Boundless technique. It had been his lifeline, especially since he had no status or backing to speak of. As he opened his eyes in his new body, he couldn't help but wonder if this was the limit of his abilities. Nevertheless, he had already achieved a small goal, which was a good start. However, the unnerving silence around him made him uneasy. It had been a while since he had woken up, and apart from the doctor, no one had come to visit him. The protagonist couldn't help but suspect that the body's previous owner was a troublemaker with a less than desirable personality. But he knew better than to act recklessly before understanding his surroundings. 3 months have flown by since then. The story now takes us to the 4th young lord, Han Yuemun, who is inquiring of the physician, telling it's been 3 months since he's eaten it, yet there's been no visible changes. To this, the physician responds that instead, he seems to be recovering at a faster pace. Something strange is going on. 4th young lord, Han Yuemun, then said Xiaoyang always exceeds his expectations. The conversation then shifts to Rin's expected arrival. The 4th young lord inquires about the time of Rin's arrival, to which the physician replies that she should be arriving at the main temple around noon. It's been 6 months since Rin's departure, and 4th young lord hints that something intriguing is about to happen soon. The story then takes us to the 3rd young lord, who is seen practicing his martial arts in his room. Having successfully recovered from his weakened state, he is now able to fully utilize his martial prowess without any hindrance. He had given it his all for the last 3 months to bring his shitty body back to normal, and as a result, the remaining cloudy energy and demonic energy have dissipated. While he was taking his herbal medicine, memories of his past life continued to haunt him. However, he managed to regain his composure and pondered, will he ever be free in this life? After finishing his training, as the young lord was getting ready, he overheard a commotion outside his room, followed by a sound of a slap. Suddenly, a girl appeared in his room and greeted him, saying, it's been a while." The young lord was taken aback and wondered who she was. Upon seeing the protagonist, she remarked that he looked better than she had expected. However, the protagonist was unfamiliar with her and felt the need to escape from the situation. He hastily claimed that he had urgent business elsewhere. However, his attempts to leave were thwarted by her guards who blocked the door. Sensing his unease, she reassured the guards that she intended to have a long conversation with the third young lord and requested them to prevent any interruptions. With the door now shut, she urged the protagonist to take a seat as they had much to discuss. The protagonist told her he is feeling uncomfortable in his sweaty clothes, requested some time to change before continuing the conversation. The woman agreed to wait, and even suggested that he postpone any other engagements he might have had. As he looked at her, the protagonist couldn't shake the feeling that there was something extraordinary about this woman, but he realized that he had no choice but to engage with her. Turning to his maid, he instructed her to follow him closely. He then inquired about the woman's identity, and explained that he had lost his memories after recovering from the QI blockage. Upon hearing the protagonist's explanation, his maid revealed that the girl's name was Hung Yiren. Yiren was a demon who worked for the religion's internal enlightenment facility, and was affiliated with the Jiaxa family, which was a part of the demon cult. She was renowned for her immense strength and talent, and was regarded as a heroine by the demonic cult's chief. In addition, Yiren was also the younger sister of the fourth young lord. The protagonist was curious about his relationship with Yiren and why she was seeking him out, but his maid didn't have all the details. Nonetheless, they had encountered each other several times in the past month, leading the protagonist to believe that their relationship was more significant than he had originally thought. After expressing his gratitude, he asked his maid if her face was alright, as it appeared to be quite swollen. Concerned for her well-being, he urged her to go and rest. His maid was taken aback by his compassion, as she recalled the third young lord's previous demeanor being vastly different. Following his conversation with the maid, the protagonist approached Yiren and apologized for his earlier rudeness, admitting that he had acted thoughtlessly. In response, Yiren told him that it was okay. When the protagonist asked why she was there, Yiren couldn't help but notice his mild demeanor and thought to herself that he must have lost his martial prowess after coming out of the QI blockage. She wasted no time and immediately brought up the contract, which bore both their seals. According to the terms of the contract, if either of them violated it, or if an event occurred which required them to terminate the agreement, the penalty would be tripled. She had invested nearly 1,000 niang in the miracle drug alone, and along with the additional funds from other sources, the total amount came to just over 2,000 niang. However, she would take out the little things because they were close. The protagonist was shocked to learn that the fourth young lord's younger sister had been sponsoring his previous body owner with money and medicine. He couldn't help but wonder what the previous owner had been thinking at the time. Yiren then proceeded to inform him that he owed her a total of 6,000 niang, which included the cost of the wonder drug and additional expenses. She suggested that if he found it difficult to pay her back, he could write up a contract outlining when he would be able to repay her. The protagonist couldn't help but feel that Yiren was trying to take advantage of the situation by making herself out to be the victim and invalidating the previous contract. He had been bedridden due to the chi blockage, and he believed that she was disregarding his circumstances. However, the protagonist wanted to build his reputation and then increase his wealth. Thus, he instructed his maid to prepare the necessary writing materials so that he could draft a new contract. The protagonist was irked by Yiren's attitude and couldn't help but feel that she was trying to take advantage of him. Despite this, he managed to complete the contract and included a clause stating that the contract would end once Yiren received the money. Yiren, on the other hand, was surprised by the protagonist's recklessness in drafting the contract, but nonetheless reminded him that if he can't pay her back, he'll have to come when she calls for him like a loyal dog. She also added that they should respect each other until the contract was fulfilled. The protagonist then told Yiren that she wants him to be respectful when he is handing over this type of contract. He then proceeded to summon the commander of the royal guards, instructing him to prepare a carriage as he had urgent business to attend to. The commander, however, expressed concerns about the protagonist's physical condition. Undeterred, the protagonist revealed his destination to be the Demon Lord's abode. Yurin was taken aback by this revelation, prompting her to inquire about his intentions. It was then that the protagonist explained his desire to verify the fairness of the contract. After hearing his reasoning, Yurin was left astounded by his boldness, recognizing the danger in his decision. The protagonist calmly asserted that he needed to fight back, as he wanted to ensure the fairness of the contract. However, Yurin also conveyed her belief that presenting the contract to the Demon Lord would be akin to putting their lives on the line. She further cautioned him that his association with her could put him in grave danger, as the Demon Lord would see her as a threat. The protagonist acknowledged the gravity of Yurin's concerns, recognizing that his association with her could have dire consequences for both of them. He understood that if the Demon Lord were to discover their contract, he too would face harsh punishment, possibly even exile due to his diminished martial prowess. However, the protagonist also highlighted the potential risks to Yurin, as her family's reputation might not be enough to protect her from imprisonment. He noted that in the worst-case scenario, the Gyoxa family would suffer complete ruin for the perceived failure of raising their daughter. Upon hearing the protagonist's words, Yurin asked him if he did not aspire to become the supreme leader. The protagonist quickly dismissed the idea, stating that it was ridiculous since his body was not capable of that. He reminded her that she was aware of his limitations when she came here. However, he tells her to accompany him to the Demon Lord's palace. Yurin's face turned red with embarrassment, and she asked the protagonist what she could do to prevent him from going to the Demon Lord. The protagonist looked at her intently, and told her that she needed to rip the contract with her own hands. The story then shifted to the protagonist's past life, where Hajin and his friend had completed a task given to him by the righteous sect leader. Afterward, he and his friend took a break, but he reminded his friend that they couldn't stay for long as the leader had warned them against detection. During their rest, Hajin noticed his friend holding a bird carving. After showing it to him, his friend asked if he was tired of living as an assassin. His friend then shared his plan of escaping and living freely in the rural regions, away from the scent of blood. Hajin expressed his desire to join him, but his friend firmly refused, telling him not to even think about it. The story then takes us to a tragic sight, where Hajin stands before a lifeless child and his grieving mother, while his group searches for any survivors to eliminate. Despite their efforts, they couldn't find anyone left alive. Hajin told his subordinates that those people had betrayed the alliance and committed treason, orders his subordinates to search the nearby population. In the midst of the search, he notices a carving of a bird in the child's hand, and memories come flooding back to him. In that moment, an unexpected visitor arrives, Hajin's old friend. As he looks upon the devastating scene, he realizes that Hajin's subordinates had killed his wife and child. Fueled by anger and grief, he attacks and kills Hajin's subordinates. Hajin confided in his old friend that the alliance leader had tasked them with eliminating those who had betrayed the alliance, branding them as traitors who had committed treason. However, he admitted that he didn't have much knowledge about the matter. In response, his old friend said that is killing people just a job for him, and taking someone's life was akin to committing murder every day. He reassured Hajin that an assassin wouldn't have much insight into the situation. Despite this, his old friend couldn't help but curse Hajin when he was dying, warning him that his life would ultimately be haunted by the deaths of all those he had murdered, even in the afterlife. In the present scene, the Demon Lord prepared himself for the day ahead. His attention was drawn to Mu Dam, the first royal guard, who had come to inform him that the third young lord was seeking an audience. Mu Dam had already dispatched a carriage to the third young lord's abode, and he was expected to arrive at the palace soon. Upon hearing this news, the Demon Lord instructed Mu Dam to lead the third young lord to the demonic judgment pavilion. The first royal guard was taken aback by this unexpected directive, but followed his lord's command and departed. Meanwhile, the physician finished checking the protagonist's pulse. The protagonist still can't get used to the chaotic aura that flows in when the physician feels his pulse. However, there was good news in store for him. The physician declared that the damaged veins seemed to have fully recovered, leaving the protagonist surprised but relieved. The physician was equally amazed by the protagonist's regenerative abilities, and couldn't help but express his shock. Unfortunately, the protagonist did not like the physician's gaze, finding it intrusive and unsettling. Sensing the protagonist's unease, the physician quickly apologized and asked for his forgiveness. He then went on to share his belief that the protagonist's regenerative powers were so potent that he would no longer require acupuncture or any other form of assistance to heal. Curious about the supreme healing potion, the protagonist inquires with the physician, admitting that he has never heard of it before. The physician responds by explaining that it is a specially crafted decoction composed of fine herbs known to aid in the recovery of one's energy. He goes on to mention that the potion is exclusively handcrafted by skilled artisans within the household, and only served to the highest-ranking members of the main sanctuary. Upon learning about the potion's potential medicinal benefits, the protagonist can't help but wonder if it would help speed up his own recovery process. As their conversation draws to a close, the physician informs the protagonist that he'll be back in 2 days to check on his progress. He expresses his hope that the third young lord will recover quickly. As the physician leaves the room, the protagonist finds himself lost in thought about his impending meeting with the heavenly demon. Like many others within Kanghomirim, he too is filled with a sense of curiosity about this enigmatic figure, who may well be the strongest person alive. Though the heavenly demon has never revealed the full extent of his powers, he is widely considered to be one of the most formidable people in the world. However, the protagonist is also aware of the potential danger that comes with associating with the demon cult. He realizes that his lack of knowledge about the cult could put him in a precarious position when he meets the heavenly demon. Should he have been more cautious? Only if that Hong Yiren, daughter of the Jiaxa family, or whatever, didn't shove a ridiculous contract in his face. As he continues to contemplate his situation, the protagonist wonders what kind of person the heavenly demon really is, and whether he will be able to handle the encounter. Moments later, the protagonist's maid delivers the news that they have received a message from the demon god's palace, and that the carriage is ready to take them there. The protagonist feels ready to face the heavenly demon, and decides that he might as well confront him head-on. With a deep breath, the protagonist opens the door to his room, preparing to make his way to the demon palace. Though he knows that the situation could be dangerous, he is determined to see it through and face whatever challenges lie ahead. The protagonist walks out of his room, ready to embark on this new chapter in his life. Soon the protagonist arrived at the heavenly demon palace and disembarked from his carriage. One of the guards informed him that the demon lord had summoned him to the demonic judgment pavilion and directed him to follow a guide. As he followed the guide, he caught sight of a mountain in the distance where the pavilion was located. The protagonist was taken aback by the sight and began to wonder about the purpose of this ominous structure. As he climbed the mountain, he couldn't help but ponder whether this was truly the headquarters of the demon cult, given the large number of guards present. Meanwhile, the heavenly demon was enjoying some alcohol in the demonic judgment pavilion. The situation was eerily similar to when the protagonist had been trapped in the inescapable formation by the righteous Heavenly Alliance and the Steel Blood Fortress. High-level masters completely surrounded the area. It felt as if he was in a dragon's den or a tiger's lair, where one wrong move could result in his demise. Despite the danger, he approached the door of the demonic judgment pavilion with a calm exterior, knowing that his every move could determine whether he would survive in the demon cult. Upon entering the pavilion, the protagonist was pleasantly surprised by the stunning sight. Although it was winter outside, the pavilion seemed to be experiencing the weather of spring. He wondered whether he was dreaming or whether this was an illusion, since he couldn't fathom how this sight could be real. While strolling through the demonic judgment pavilion, the protagonist couldn't help but express his desire to retire from Kangho and live in a place surrounded by lush greenery, similar to the place of his dreams. He marveled at the realistic illusion technique used to create this stunning environment. As he reached out to touch a flower in the garden, a voice suddenly spoke to him, causing him to feel frightened. Following the voice, he spotted a pavilion that he was certain wasn't there a moment ago, and he noticed a figure standing inside. As the protagonist advanced towards the pavilion, his each step represented a delicate balance between life and death. The first step symbolized life, while the second step represented death. His feet seemed to move of their own accord, as though he had been bewitched. Meanwhile, the heavenly demon watched with interest, pondering whether this was the demonic judgment pavilion that the third had envisioned. As the protagonist arrived at the pavilion, his instincts as the assassin king warned him of the danger lurking within. Nevertheless, he knew that he had no choice but to press on if he wished to escape the clutches of the demon cult and begin a new life. Taking a deep breath, he stepped inside the pavilion, knowing that he was about to face the demon lord himself. He was the 9th person to have been summoned by the great 9th heavenly demon in the demon cult, Li Chansang. As he entered, the heavenly demon cast his gaze upon him. As the protagonist faced the heavenly demon inside the pavilion, outside, the first royal guard questioned the guide about the third young lord's entrance. The guide confirmed that he had indeed entered the pavilion. Sensing that something was amiss, the guide asked the first royal guard if he was troubled by something, but the guard remained silent. The guide quickly apologized, realizing that he had overstepped his boundaries. The first royal guard then explained that, under the demon lord's reign, there had only been 2 instances when outsiders were allowed to enter the demonic judgment pavilion. The first time was about 25 years ago, when the Lord had taken in his first disciple. After hearing the question, the guide inquired if the heavenly demon's first disciple was the first young lord. However, the first royal guard clarified that it wasn't the case. He stated that the first young lord became the demon lord's disciple exactly 20 years ago. Curious, the guide then asked if there was another disciple before the first young lord. The royal guard confirmed this and revealed that there was an unknown disciple who lurked in the shadows. This disciple met his demise at the demonic judgment pavilion, where his skin was ripped apart as if wild animals had attacked him. The guide's curiosity led to another question: did the demon lord himself cause the brutal death of the unknown disciple? The first royal guard clarified that it wasn't the case. He reasoned that if the demon lord had intended to kill him, he wouldn't have brought him here in the first place. Further, the guide asked about the identity of the second person who had entered the demonic judgment pavilion. The royal guard revealed that it was none other than the general strategist, a person of absolute authority who looked after both small and big matters. He had climbed his way to the top through his intelligence and strategic thinking, rather than martial arts. The royal guard added that the strategist had entered the pavilion with confidence and walked out with his head held high. The first royal guard mentioned that the demonic judgment pavilion has opened its gates for the 3rd time today. He then pondered out loud, wondering whether the third young lord would be able to come out of the pavilion alive or not. Meanwhile, the protagonist greeted the demon lord. He instructed him to raise his head. Upon seeing the demon lord, the protagonist was struck by the realization that he was indeed different. He is the grand demonic master and the ruler of all. Although the demon lord did not emit any apparent aura, the protagonist sensed the immense dignity that he possessed. The protagonist mused that the demon lord was someone who had no reason to be limited by the confines of being one of the top 10 strongest martial artists. Instead, he was the world's most powerful martial god, considered to be half immortal and dwelling in an entirely different dimension. With this realization, the protagonist couldn't help but wonder, why didn't the demon lord try to become a tyrant? The demon lord then poured some fragrant alcohol and offered it to the protagonist, who eagerly accepted it and savored the taste. He couldn't help but wonder when was the last time he had such fancy booze. As he was drinking, the demon lord asked the protagonist about the reason behind his request to see him. The protagonist couldn't help but feel that the demon lord was cold, and he wondered if masters and disciples in this region were always so harsh towards one another. Regardless, He sensed that the demon lord didn't like to beat around the bush, so he decided to cut to the chase and be direct with him. The protagonist hesitated before finally mustering the courage to ask the demon lord for a favor. The demon lord asked him what it was, and the protagonist replied by requesting permission to leave the cult. The demon lord then instructed him to pour some alcohol in the drinking bowl, which made the protagonist feel like he was going crazy because he couldn't read the demon lord's facial expression or figure out what he was thinking. As he poured the alcohol, the demon lord clarified if the protagonist was saying that he wanted to leave for a while or if he wanted to completely cut ties with the cult. The protagonist was shocked by the question, and the demon lord followed up by asking if he didn't like being his disciple. The protagonist quickly clarified that this was not the case. The demon lord then inquired of the protagonist whether he had given up, seeing how exhausted his body had become. Expressing disappointment, the demon lord appeared skeptical. However, the protagonist quickly clarified that he is not trying to sever ties with the demon cult. It had only been a short while since his recovery, and in the meantime, he had lost his martial prowess. Despite a deep desire to pull himself together, it was proving to be a more challenging task than he anticipated. Thus, he had decided to take a step back and go out for some fresh air to clear his mind. It was this need for respite that led the protagonist to approach the demon today with his request. Upon hearing the protagonist's request, the demon lord reacted with surprise and thrust his drinking bowl, questioning whether the protagonist had only sought permission to go out. The protagonist couldn't help but feel careless, realizing the absurdity of the situation. After all, he had come to request an audience with the ruler of all, the demon lord of the heavenly demon divine cult, for the sole purpose of seeking permission for a simple outing. The protagonist, realizing the foolishness of his previous request, began to offer another excuse. He explained to the demon lord that he had also wanted to see him after a long time. The demon lord's reaction to this statement was not unfavorable, and the conversation continued. The protagonist then expressed his belief that despite his physical state, he still had duties to fulfill as a disciple. Additionally, he acknowledged that he could never fully repay the kindness the demon lord had shown him, and regretted not having the opportunity to express his gratitude properly. The protagonist hoped to evoke some emotion in the demon lord by playing the sentiment card, as he hoped to make amends for his earlier request. Upon hearing the protagonist's words, the demon lord's drinking bowl began to disintegrate into dust, which left the protagonist in a state of shock. The demon lord then questioned the protagonist, asking if he had just mentioned the duties of a disciple. He stood up and continued, saying that if the protagonist truly knew his duties, he would not have appeared before him in such a weakened state. The protagonist couldn't help but feel a sense of panic, wondering if the demon lord had somehow discovered that he is not Seorian. It felt as though the demon lord was piercing into his very soul with his gaze. Overwhelmed, the protagonist wondered how he could possibly excuse his behavior this time. After a moment, the protagonist realized that he had not been caught in his deception. However, he couldn't help but feel a sense of frustration at the demon lord's reaction. After all, he had come to pay his respects as soon as he had recovered from his chi blockage. How could the demon lord question his understanding of his duties as a disciple? The protagonist couldn't help but wonder what was missing from the demon lord's perspective. The demon lord then informed the protagonist that he would send someone within the next 3 days, and that he was free to leave. However, the protagonist couldn't help but wonder about his earlier request for an outing. Was he allowed to go outside or not? He wished the demon lord would just tell him directly instead of leaving him in a state of uncertainty. With that, the protagonist left the demonic judgment pavilion, while the demon lord stood there talking to himself about the beautiful view of clear skies and green pastures. It had been a long time since he had seen such a sight. The scene then shifted to the demon lord's palace, where he poured alcohol for his first royal guard as a reward for his hard work. The guard graciously accepted and took a sip. The demon lord then inquired about the third young lord and asked what was going on with him. The first royal guard informed the demon lord that the third young lord had been recovering at his home. The demon lord then inquired if there was anything else, as the third seemed to be doing quite well. He recounted how he had picked up the third young lord 10 years ago, mistaking him for an emugi, only to find out that he was just a venomous snake. However, today he saw that the third had a magic pearl in his mouth and was gaining a deeper understanding of death while distancing himself from evil. Upon hearing this, the first royal guard was taken aback. Because the demonic judgment pavilion was a place where evil was judged, and the object to be judged was brought forth by the demon lord. The judgment was given by the demon lord in the formation, and it embodied the heart of those who entered it, revealing their current and subconscious state. If the object of judgment was not to the demon lord's liking, the demonic formation of the pavilion would attack them depending on the demon lord's will. As soon as they harbored any intention to kill, they would be destroyed in a wretched way. It was a formation technique that could find out one's true intentions, and it was of the highest level that only the demon lord could cast. The heavenly demon then inquired of the first royal guard about the well-being of the solitary bamboo grove. With confidence, the guard replied that the court of elders had been appointed to maintain it every other day, and that there had been an average of 5 casualties a month, but thankfully, no deaths in the past 4 months. Pleased with the response, the demon lord instructed that the court of elders withdraw their personnel for the time being, as he would be sending the third to the solitary bamboo grove. The first royal guard was taken aback and asked, "To the solitary bamboo grove?" To which the demon lord affirmed that it was the perfect place to get some fresh air. The demon lord wasted no time in sending the protagonist to the solitary bamboo grove. As the protagonist arrived, he couldn't help but wonder why he had been sent to such an isolated place. He had only requested to go out, so why had the demon lord sent him to this desolate location all by himself? He couldn't shake the feeling that he had done something wrong to deserve such a punishment. Frustrated and angry, he cursed the demon lord, calling him an asshole. Protagonist's scream echoed through the entire area, startling the nearby birds. While he wept, he couldn't help but wonder how this could be a good place to get some fresh air. He continued to curse the demon lord out loud, thinking that he was all alone in the middle of nowhere. However, he was surprised when he suddenly heard someone speak from behind him. The person apologized for interrupting him, and warned him that it was dangerous to speak ill of the demon lord. The stranger then asked him what he had said and informed him that any abusive language towards the demon lord was considered a serious offense punishable by immediate death. This applied to everyone, even young lords and ladies. The protagonist advised the other person to listen carefully. He didn't say anything bad about the demon lord. The other person apologized for misunderstanding. The protagonist Hujin didn't talk negatively about the demon lord because he realized that the members of the demon cult admire their leader even more than the emperor. As he looked at the man's face, Hujin realized that the demon cult considers their leader to be a true god, rather than just a member of the royalty. The protagonist then inquired if the man was a member of the court of elders. With a nod, the man confirmed that he was indeed from the court. He introduced himself as Dongpil, the third leader of the heavenly demon divine cult's court of elders. Greeting the protagonist, Dongpil expressed his enthusiasm for serving as the protagonist's personal guard. He considered it an honor to do so. Although Dongpil's words were sincere, the protagonist couldn't care less about his honor. All he wanted was for Dongpil to leave him alone. But Dongpil's burning passion shone through as he made a solemn vow to dedicate himself to the protagonist's safety, even if it meant risking his own life. The scene then shifted to latter day. We found the protagonist deep in thought. Despite his best efforts, he couldn't seem to leave the place he was in. He let out a cry of frustration, expressing his hatred for the demon cult that had exiled him there. All he wanted was to escape, but it seemed impossible. After a moment of reflection, the protagonist realized that he couldn't afford to waste any more time on useless thoughts. He reminded himself that leaving the demon cult was never going to be easy, so he might as well make the best of his situation. In that moment, the protagonist began to question why he had wanted to leave the demon cult in the first place. Was it because of a premonition that he had upon discovering his reincarnation as the third young lord of the divine demon cult? Despite the fact that he would eventually have to leave this place, it was impossible for him to do so at this moment. He had no choice but to continue living in the demon cult as the third young lord. To do that, he realized, he would need power. He would need to become stronger if he wanted to survive in the demon cult. And so, with newfound determination, he set out on a path of self-improvement, determined to do whatever it took to become the strongest he could be. The heavenly demon divine cult was notorious for its strict adherence to the survival of the fittest ideology. Among all the other groups in Nirim, there was no place for Hajin to passively wait and be culled and kicked out. In the end, he would have to take the path of martial arts, even if it meant risking his life. The protagonist had a realization that he could no longer resort to petty tricks to survive. Instead, he would use his power to walk out of the cult with his head held high. With his unwavering determination and his commitment to increasing his strength, he was confident that he could achieve his goals through sheer force of will. It was not going to be easy, but he knew that with his own strength, he could overcome any obstacle that came his way. As the protagonist pondered his future, Dongpil suddenly appeared behind him and announced that his meal was ready. The sudden appearance startled the protagonist, who was not expecting Dongpil to be there. The protagonist declined Dongpil's offer and asked him not to bother him. Dongpil, concerned for the young lord's well-being, explained that it had been 2 days since their arrival, and the protagonist had not even had a sip of water or eaten anything. The young lord's health was his top priority, and he urged him to take care of himself. After conveying his message, Dongpil departed from the area. For 3 days, the protagonist remained in the solitary bamboo grove, utilizing the Boundless technique to strengthen his body and soul. During this time, he noticed that the circulation of QI from the Boundless technique felt different from usual, a revelation that piqued his curiosity and made him even more determined to master the technique. The protagonist had already attained the 3rd stage of the Boundless technique, a remarkable feat considering his weakened physical state due to chi blockage. The Boundless technique was divided into 5 stages of power, and in his previous life as the Assassin King, he had reached the peak of the 4th stage. In the Boundless technique, the harmony between the martial arts and the physical body was crucial to achieving power, even more so than achieving enlightenment. Despite his physical limitations, the protagonist was already on the cusp of advancing to the 4th stage of power, making him wonder if Xiaoriang, the previous owner of the body, was a genius. The protagonist marveled at the potential of his current body and pondered how far he could go with it. With his unwavering determination and years of experience as an assassin, he was confident that he could achieve greatness beyond what he had accomplished in his previous life. In addition to the Boundless technique, the Purification technique had also automatically activated, further enhancing the protagonist's potential. This technique cleansed the air by drawing in the turbid chi in the surroundings and incorporating it into the body's internalized power through the Boundless technique's suppression ability. As the air around the area became purified, the efficiency of the internalization of power multiplied, which accelerated the protagonist's advancement. Thanks to the Purification technique, the protagonist realized that he would be able to regain his previous power sooner than he initially thought. The prospect of regaining his former strength filled him with a renewed sense of purpose, motivating him to continue his training in the solitary bamboo grove. He knew that he would need all the power he could muster to get away from the heavenly demon divine cult. After realizing that, the protagonist begins to advance to the 4th stage of the Boundless technique. 5 days after entering the solitary bamboo grove, the protagonist's body is completely healed now. The tattered blood pathways and vital organs have become much healthier than this body's physical age. Thanks to that, life in the solitary bamboo grove has become much easier than expected. After that, the protagonist's hair color has darkened, and it seems that everything he eats is delicious thanks to Dongpil's excellent cooking. He's been sleeping well, too. What's more, the abilities he possessed in his previous life as an assassin have returned to him. One of those abilities, Hypersensation, was acquired during his reign as the Assassin King. It's a natural ability that arose from his frequent brushes with death and his experience surviving as an assassin. The martial art that amplifies this hypersensation is known as the Heavenly Net 6 Power Technique. The protagonist then utilized Omniscient Sight, a martial art that rapidly heightens one's 5 senses to the extreme, surpassing even that of any beast. Without even turning his head, he could vividly sense all of his surroundings. The protagonist smiled at first but soon started sobbing, hating himself for adapting so well to a place like this. As he was lost in thought, Dongpil appeared behind him and informed him that the meal was ready. The protagonist got scared and told Dongpil that if he continued to act this way, it wouldn't be good for him. Dongpil replied, "Yes, my lord." Upon hearing that, the protagonist thought to himself, "This bastard, he's pretending to be dumb so he can keep pranking me, right?" Dongpil warned the protagonist to head back because the demonic monsters would become active once the sun went down. As they started to make their way back, the protagonist thought to himself, "Finally, I've established the foundation needed to practice martial arts properly. If I can integrate the experience and knowledge I gained as the Assassin King into this talented body, I can become strong again in no time." As the protagonist was lost in his thought, Dongpil noticed something behind the bamboo grove and wondered, "Is that a ghost?" Shortly after, the protagonist began training his Boundless technique once again, which proved to be incredibly effective in restoring his body to a certain extent. With his body on the mend, he felt confident enough to employ his flying technique once more, and to his delight, his 2 martial arts abilities had also returned. The Boundless technique had rejuvenated his body, while the Heavenly Net 6 Power technique had sharpened his hypersenses. The only missing piece of the puzzle was the Dark Shadow Chi, an elusive technique that combined the elite hidden skills of the 10 great sections. These 3 martial abilities were the foundational arts that had earned the protagonist his reputation as the legendary Assassin King, Hajin. Armed with these skills, he knew he could regain his strength in no time at all. As his mind pondered over the possibility of learning the elusive Dark Shadow Chi technique, the protagonist couldn't help but wonder if he was even allowed to learn it. After all, he was now the 3rd young Lord Xiaoyang, not Hajin, and this is the heavenly demon divine cult. He was certain that the previous owner of his body was already practicing some form of demonic art. Seeking answers, he called for Dongpil, who suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Turning to Dongpil, the protagonist asked if any of his brothers had not yet mastered a demonic art, or if anyone had learned a martial art that wasn't demonic in nature. Upon hearing the protagonist's question, Dongpil initially seemed confused and apologized for not understanding. The protagonist then proceeded to ask what would happen if he chose not to learn any demonic arts. In response, Dongpil expressed doubt that such a decision would even be possible, as it would greatly displease the Demon Lord. Determined to learn more about the subject, the protagonist ordered Dongpil to head to the library immediately and, with the authority of the 3rd young lord, retrieve all the secret texts he could borrow on the topic of demonic arts. After Dongpil went to the library, he approached the 1st royal guard and relayed that the 3rd young lord had instructed him to retrieve a secret text on demonic arts. Upon hearing this, the 1st royal guard contemplated that the 3rd young lord already possessed extensive knowledge in that area. The thought crossed his mind, could the 3rd young lord be seeking some sort of personal stimulation through these texts? Feeling the need to clarify his doubts, Dongpil apologized in advance for asking such a disrespectful question. However, as a dedicated guardian, he believed it was essential to understand the individual he was assigned to protect. Therefore, he mustered the courage to inquire if the third young lord had experienced memory loss following his struggle with chi blockage. Receiving Dongpil's question, the first royal guard acknowledged his uncertainty, realizing he did not possess that information. He too wondered if the third young lord had indeed lost his memories. From the very beginning, the third young lord had been blessed with natural talent, but he had been consumed by greed and arrogance. He was a true tyrant who showed no consideration for those beneath him. However, since his recovery from the chi blockage, he has undergone a remarkable transformation. Even his loyal servant noticed the stark change in him, and shared with the first royal guard that he is now quite different from his previous self. Through both his words and actions, the third young lord appears to be plagued by confusion at times. It is astonishing that he managed to survive the treacherous demon lord's testing ground, the demonic judgment pavilion. These observations were also corroborated by Dongpil's report, further emphasizing the remarkable shift in the third young lord's demeanor. The first royal guard, understanding the reason behind Dongpil's question, reassured him not to worry too much about it. The person Dongpil was serving at present was not just an ordinary individual, but one of the 7 candidates who might potentially become the successor of the demon cult in the future. It was uncertain whether the third young lord was simply jesting or if he had genuinely lost his memories. In any case, the first royal guard advised Dongpil to refrain from asking further questions. This was just one of the many challenges faced when protecting the successors, which was precisely why the first royal guard had specifically chosen Dongpil for the role. After conveying this, the first royal guard tossed the key to Dongpil, informing him that the loan period for the texts was 3 days. He instructed Dongpil to mix them with other texts and extract around 3 or 4 secret texts. After inquiring whether Dongpil had provided an explanation about the solitary bamboo grove to the young lord, the first royal guard received a response from Dongpil stating that he hadn't done so yet, but he intended to do it today. Recognizing the dangers associated with the bamboo grove, the first royal guard reminded Dongpil of his awareness. However, he assured Dongpil that everything would be fine, emphasizing the importance of conveying the information properly to the young lord at the earliest opportunity. Dongpil's duty held immense significance, and he should strive to serve the third young lord to the best of his abilities. Dongpil acknowledged this responsibility, affirming that he would keep it in mind. Upon hearing Dongpil's response, the first royal guard couldn't help but wonder what did the demon lord see in the third young lord to send him to the solitary bamboo grove. The solitary bamboo grove, the demonic forest that existed before the heavenly demon divine cult settled on the 100,000 mountains. The culprit that took away countless lives of demonic humans over 1,000 years. When only the absolutely powerful first heavenly demon existed, and the divine cult did not have a large force, it helped the cult become one of the great sects in no time at all. It provides the greatest of gifts to those who are fated, and drags those who aren't to the pits of death. This is the second time the demon lord is putting the third young lord to the test. He received a passing grade at the demonic judgment pavilion. The first royal guard then ponders what will happen at the solitary bamboo grove. The scene then shifted to protagonist Hajin, who was taken aback by the sight of the 17 secret textbooks. He questioned Dongpil, asking why he had brought so many books. In response, Dongpil calmly stated that it wasn't a large number. He had only chosen the best ones, so the selection wasn't extensive. Hajin, upon hearing this, wondered if he truly had to master demonic arts now. If he considered demonic arts inferior to heavenly arts, he would be unable to perceive their true nature. He needed to approach them without any bias. Lost in his thoughts, Hajin was interrupted by Dongpil, who informed him that there was something he must share. Dongpil revealed that out of the 17 texts, 3 of them needed to be returned within 3 days. Hajin questioned the reason behind this requirement, to which Dongpil replied, "That's because these 3 are the 10 great demonic arts secret texts of our school. As you already know, they are only accessible to the first, second, and third young lords. The 10 great demonic arts represent the pinnacle of demonic arts within the heavenly demon divine cult. If young Lord successfully learns even one of them, he would be able to look down upon the world, as these arts are considered masterpieces. They are widely known throughout the divine cult. While Dongpil pondered over these thoughts, Hajin questioned why he was staring at him in such a manner. Dongpil quickly apologized, acknowledging that he had been disrespectful, as he was witnessing a new side of the young lord. Dongpil proceeded to ask Hajin if he truly didn't remember any of these secret texts. In response, Hajin looked at him and explained that he had completely lost his martial prowess after waking up from the chi blockage. His mind and heart were not the same as before, and now he had been exiled to the solitary bamboo grove. Hajin told that he needed to make an attempt to relearn all of the demonic arts he had forgotten. He turned to Dongpil and told Dongpil was his only hope at this moment, and asked for his assistance. Hajin then explained that he needed to warm up, so he requested Dongpil to acquire some weapons from the cult at daybreak tomorrow. As Hajin spoke about this, Dongpil's emotions overwhelmed him, and tears welled up in his eyes. He passionately assured Hajin that he would support him with his life. Shortly after, Dongpil emerged from the house, contemplating the situation. He thought they'll start being more active in about 10 days. It doesn't seem like they're making a move, and the barricade is up, so I'm sure it'll be fine. This is the most secure area in the solitary bamboo grove. While observing Hajin through the window, engrossed in reading the secret texts, Dongpil realized the importance of ensuring nothing disturbed the young lord's concentration. Determined, he made a mental note to bring back the weapons Hajin had requested as soon as possible. Dongpil reminded himself not to let his guard down, no matter what. As Dongpil prepared to leave, we caught sight of a fox lurking behind the fencing. In the next scene, it became clear that Hajin's dark shadow chi may not have gained widespread popularity, yet it stood as one of the most formidable techniques in the realm of Mirim. While it may not have possessed the sheer power of the secret techniques mastered by the 10 great sects, its depth and purity were unparalleled in its era. However, the realm of demonic arts differed significantly. Demonic arts, in contrast, placed destruction above purity, emphasizing output rather than stability, favoring attack over defense, and prioritizing true power over flexibility. These characteristics bore a striking resemblance to the methods employed by assassins. Contemplating this, Hajin acknowledged the incredible prowess possessed by the 10 great demonic arts. However, he realized that his current abilities would not enable him to master all 10 of these formidable martial arts. Thus, he pondered what measures he could take to enhance the dark shadow chi by incorporating elements from these 10 great demonic arts. Soon Hajin's gaze shifted towards the crimson martial arts tome, known as the epitome of true demonic art. Among the fundamental techniques that laid the groundwork for several of the 10 great demonic arts, true demonic art stood as a cornerstone alongside demonic dissolution art. In terms of the adaptability of demonic chi, true demonic art surpassed some of the 10 great demonic arts, making it akin to a parent technique within the realm of the demon cult. Its sophistication and mastery exceeded that of many other techniques in the demonic cult. Immersed in his reading, Hajin eventually closed the book, realizing the importance of awakening his senses before delving further. Determined, he embarked on training his Boundless technique, honing his skills with fervor. Amidst his training, Hajin's acute perception caught sight of a figure in the distance, prompting him to wonder if it was Dongpil. Becoming increasingly vigilant, Hajin recognized the possibility that he might be under observation, urging him to exercise caution. Although Dongpil appeared somewhat naive, he hadn't entirely let his guard down when it came to Hajin. With the completion of his Boundless technique, an unexpected turn of events unfolded. An ominous monster materialized behind Hajin. Swiftly noticing its presence, Hajin evaded its aggressive assault skillfully. Reflecting on the situation, he couldn't help but think about the potential danger it posed and questioned whether it had managed to break through the wall. Observing the creature closely, Hajin couldn't help but be astonished. It resembled a gigantic chicken with 6 legs, wings larger than a person, and 3 heads. Hajin's astonishment grew as he exclaimed, "What on earth is that?" The colossal chicken-like creature appeared to be a mutated version of the legendary Great King Nianluo. The sight left Hajin utterly speechless, overwhelmed by the bizarre nature of the surroundings. Amidst his thoughts, the monster launched another lightning-fast attack towards him. Nonetheless, Hajin managed to evade the onslaught, albeit with a torn garment as a consequence. Unfazed by the previous failed attack, the monster resorted to a sound-based technique in its next assault. Meanwhile, Dongpil busied himself, procuring a weapon for his third young lord. Pondering the task at hand, he mused. The third young lord was renowned for his proficiency in swordsmanship. He must have honed his skills to the extent of creating his very own style. In the midst of his contemplation, Dongpil couldn't help but consider the possibility that his young lord might regain his lost memories upon grasping a weapon. However, he hesitated, aware of the violent nature his young lord had exhibited in the past. Dongpil questioned whether it was truly in their best interest for the young lord to recollect those memories. As Dongpil dwelled on these thoughts, his attention was abruptly seized by a potent aroma of blood wafting through the vicinity where Hajin stood. The scent permeated the air, triggering a sense of urgency within Dongpil. In the ensuing confrontation, Hajin found himself locked in a fierce battle with the chicken monster. Swiftly, he delivered a forceful punch towards the creature, only to have his hand seized by its powerful claws. Not one to be deterred, Hajin retaliated by landing a solid blow on one of the chicken monster's heads. Enraged, the creature unleashed a powerful sound art technique against Hajin. Caught in the midst of the onslaught, Hajin's mind raced with incredulity. What kind of chicken uses sound arts? He pondered, realizing that this was no ordinary mutated fowl. The challenge before him became evident, and Hajin braced himself for a demanding fight ahead. In Hajin's mind, the thought of having a weapon to confront the chicken monster crossed his thoughts. His eyes caught sight of a discarded bamboo pole lying on the ground, and an idea sparked within him. Determined, he seized the bamboo, envisioning it as his makeshift weapon. As the chicken monster launched its attack once more, Hajin swiftly countered, striking back with the bamboo in hand. Despite his valiant efforts, uncertainty clouded his mind. Was the chicken monster truly defeated? To his astonishment, the monstrous fowl proved to be resilient, still alive and kicking. In a swift retaliation, the creature flung Hajin forcefully into a nearby fence, sending him crashing into it. Following the brutal assault, Hajin came to a realization. He understood that relying solely on physical force would not be sufficient to penetrate the chicken monster's formidable feathers. Rising to his feet, Hajin admitted to himself that he had never anticipated using this particular technique against an animal. Nonetheless, he resolved to give it a try. With unwavering determination, Hajin addressed the chicken monster, beckoning it to engage him in combat once more. After the intense chicken monster attacked Hajin, he tapped into his extraordinary skills and unleashed the power of his heavenly net technique. With a deep focus, he channeled his chi to activate the Heavenly Net's 6-power technique's second form, Hypervision. Hypervision, the pinnacle of his mastery, granted Hajin the ability to accelerate his thought process exponentially by harnessing his chi. As a result, the world around him seemingly slowed down to a crawl, revealing every intricate detail with remarkable clarity. Time appeared to bend under the influence of his heightened perception. With his senses heightened to an extraordinary level, Hajin smoothly surveyed his surroundings. In a swift motion, Hajin lunged at the chicken monster, wielding a bamboo stick as his weapon of choice. With precise aim, he targeted the creature's vulnerable spot at the heart, and pierced through it with a single strike. The power behind his blow was immense, and the chicken monster succumbed to its demise. Moments later, Dongpil hurriedly arrived at the city bamboo garden, his senses heightened by the urgency of the situation. Determined to locate the third young lord, he began his search without wasting a second. Finally, He found the young lord and anxiously inquired about his well-being. Observing the menacing presence of the monster core, Dongpil's eyes widened as he recognized their true identity. "It's an azure lotus." He urged the young lord to tend to his injuries, emphasizing the dangerous nature of these creatures. However, Hajin intervened, revealing that the blood Dongpil had noticed did not belong to the young lord. Dongpil was taken aback by this revelation, his mind racing to comprehend the truth. He quickly realized the validity of Hajin's statement. Aside from a few superficial scratches, the young lord was unharmed. The azure lotus, known for its lethal capabilities akin to a leopard, posed a serious threat that needed to be dealt with carefully. Curiosity sparked within Dongpil as he turned to Hajin and inquired if he had single-handedly vanquished the formidable azure lotus. Hajin, with a hint of pride, responded, questioning who else here besides him. Taking a moment to collect his thoughts, Hajin's attention shifted to a different matter altogether. He casually asked if they had a sizable pot available, as he had plans to prepare dinner that night. With his usual nonchalant demeanor, he then probed Dongpil for an explanation regarding this matter. Yearning to unravel the mystery surrounding this secluded bamboo grove, Hajin's voice echoed with a mix of determination and curiosity. He expressed his desire to comprehend the nature of this place and its secrets, leaving no stone unturned. His hunger for understanding extended beyond the encounter with the azure lotus, encompassing everything else that remained shrouded in enigma. With a somber tone, Dongpil began to unravel the secrets of the solitary bamboo grove. He explained that this mystical place existed long before the emergence of the heavenly demon divine cult. It was a natural demonic forest, boasting the densest concentration of spiritual chi known to any renowned mountain. However, what made it truly unique was the peculiar nature of this forest. Dongpil elaborated, revealing that the dense spiritual chi wasn't dispersed throughout the entire area but instead circulated solely within the bamboo forest. Over time, the concentration of spiritual chi within the bamboo forest grew even stronger. This phenomenon had a profound effect on the surroundings, amplifying not only the wood chi but also the earth chi, rendering the bamboo trees exceptionally sturdy and robust. His words painted a vivid picture of a place imbued with a harmonious blend of energy and nature, a sanctuary where the forces of spiritual chi thrived. The solitary bamboo grove stood as a testament to the enduring power of the land and the remarkable growth of the bamboo within its confines. Taking in Dongpil's explanation, Hajin couldn't help but notice an intriguing detail. He remarked to Dongpil that the bamboo trees in the solitary bamboo grove appeared to have a shorter lifespan compared to their counterparts elsewhere. Dongpil nodded in agreement and further elucidated on the unique phenomenon of the grove. He revealed that the bamboo shoots within the forest grew at an exponential rate, surpassing the growth of any average bamboo shoots. This rapid growth served as a crucial factor in maintaining the forest's vitality and abundance. However, it wasn't just their speed of growth that set these bamboo trees apart. Dongpil continued, emphasizing that some of these remarkable trees possessed extraordinary powers, their attributes extending beyond mere thickness and strength. His words hinted at a sense of mystique that surrounded these special trees. Intrigued by this revelation, Hajin couldn't help but inquire further. He asked Dongpil if these unique trees transformed into precious medicinal herbs or held some other significant value due to their extraordinary properties. The possibility of uncovering hidden treasures within the bamboo forest added an element of excitement to his exploration. Dongpil proceeded to provide Hajin with a more detailed explanation, shedding light on the fascinating nature of the bamboo trees within the solitary bamboo grove. He clarified that these trees had the potential to yield either poison or elixirs, depending on how they were processed. The density of the spiritual chi within them necessitated meticulous refinement, requiring dozens of intricate steps before they could be safely consumed by the human body. Astonishingly, over half of the demonic elixirs crafted by the cult originated from the bamboo trees harvested in this very grove. Hajin's curiosity soared as he contemplated the implications of such a discovery. He eagerly asked Dongpil if this meant it was possible to mass-produce elixirs from these remarkable bamboo trees. However, Dongpil swiftly dismissed the notion, explaining that the majority of the trees with any medicinal value grew deep within the heart of the forest. The challenge lay in navigating the treacherous territory inhabited by spiritual animals and beasts that roamed within. Dongpil continued to provide valuable insights, enlightening Hajin about the hierarchy of creatures within the solitary bamboo grove. He revealed that the azure lotus, the very creature they had encountered, was considered the weakest species within the forest. Despite its menacing appearance, it paled in comparison to the formidable entities that lurked deeper within. Expanding on this, Dongpil shared that some of the confirmed mid-level beasts boasted strength comparable to peak cultivation-level masters. Such formidable adversaries necessitated caution and careful planning. It was for this reason that the cult made biannual trips to the forest, accompanied by the first guardian and other high-level executives, in order to harvest the divine bamboo. However, Dongpil emphasized that even for these experienced individuals, the deepest part of the solitary bamboo grove posed a significant threat. The dangers lurking within the depths surpassed even their capabilities, highlighting the inherent risks associated with venturing further into the forest. Hajin's shock was palpable as he absorbed the gravity of Dongpil's words. The revelation left him momentarily speechless, grappling with the understanding that even within the solitary bamboo grove, the city bamboo garden stood as the safest refuge. In response to Hajin's reaction, Dongpil humbly apologized, acknowledging that he had underestimated the timing of the azure lotus presence and his own inability to protect Hajin due to his arrogance. He expressed regret for any harm that may have befallen his companion. However, Hajin, ever understanding and appreciative, reassured Dongpil that his efforts were far from lacking. He reminded Dongpil that not only had he built protective walls around the city bamboo garden, but he had also established an octagonal wall formation outside, a testament to his commitment and responsibility as a guardian. Hajin insisted that Dongpil need not carry the burden of worry, for he had already done more than enough to fulfill his duties. Following their intense encounter and heartfelt exchange, Hajin extended a friendly gesture, offering Dongpil a bowl of exquisitely cooked chicken. Dongpil's initial reaction was one of hesitation as he contemplated the implications of consuming a creature like the chicken monster. Nevertheless, his curiosity got the better of him, and he decided to give it a try. To his surprise, Dongpil found the dish to be delicious, prompting him to request another serving. As Hajin observed Dongpil's appetite, he couldn't help but reflect on the precarious nature of their surroundings. The fact that the demon lord had sent him to such a perilous place began to dawn on him. Realization washed over Hajin as he understood the urgency of mastering the demonic arts. The dangers lurking within the solitary bamboo grove made it clear that he needed to hone his skills as quickly as possible. With determination burning in his eyes, he resolved to delve deeper into the world of demonic arts, recognizing it as an essential step towards survival in this cult. As they savored their meal, Hajin took a moment to express his admiration for the well-built octagonal wall formation surrounding the city bamboo garden. He commended the construction, noting its functionality despite being built using unconventional measurements. Dongpil, intrigued by Hajin's observation, couldn't help but inquire if the young lord had studied formations before. Sensing the weight of the question, Hajin skillfully evaded it, leaving Dongpil with a lingering curiosity. Dongpil contemplated the intricacies of formations, recognizing them as a separate field of study from martial arts. It wasn't something one could simply grasp through superficial reading or casual knowledge. This train of thought led Dongpil to reflect upon the enigmatic nature of the third young lord Hajin. The more Dongpil got to know him, the more questions arose within his mind. The young lord's abilities, knowledge, and background seemed to possess layers of complexity, shrouded in mystery. Amidst their contemplations, Hajin's impressive feats captured Dongpil's attention. Within a mere 3 days, Hajin had devoured the contents of over 10 secret texts on demonic arts. Even though he had not fully recovered, he effortlessly vanquished the formidable Azure Lotus. Dongpil marveled at Hajin's abilities, recognizing that beneath his carefree demeanor lay a formidable individual emanating an indomitable aura. Dongpil couldn't help but be intrigued by the depth of Hajin's character. Despite experiencing the frustration of having his martial prowess hampered by chi blockage, Hajin remained remarkably composed and undeterred. This resilience and unwavering focus sparked Dongpil's curiosity, leading him to believe that there was much more to Hajin than met the eye. As the morning dawned, the focus shifted to Hajin's resolute decision to master the demonic arts. Recognizing the importance of a methodical approach, he understood that rushing through the learning process would be counterproductive. To achieve strength in the shortest time possible, he couldn't abandon his familiarity with Dark Shadow Chi, a martial art he created by amalgamating the secret techniques of the 10 great sects during his time as the Assassin King. Simultaneously, Hajin acknowledged the significance of the true demonic arts, which served as the foundation for all other demonic arts. He understood that the manner in which he learned these arts would directly impact the nature, character, and quality of his chi. Such an understanding highlighted the complexity and intricacy of his journey ahead. Deep in contemplation, Hajin entertained the idea of compensating for the foundational shortcomings of his dark shadow chi by embracing the true demonic arts. He likened the influence of demonic arts to a drop of ink in clean water, where the slightest contamination would permeate the entire vessel. The true demonic arts, in particular, held the essence and origin of all the demonic studies cultivated by the heavenly demon divine cult. Recognizing the potential to nurture and mature his relatively young martial prowess in Dark Shadow Chi, which had yet to complete a single generation, Hajin saw no more fitting path than delving into the true demonic arts. The convergence of his arrival at the heavenly demon divine cult and his possession of Dark Shadow Chi felt like an alignment of fate, further solidifying his resolve. With unwavering determination, Hajin embarked on his training, fully aware of the significance and implications it held. Deep in his training, Hajin relentlessly pursued the fusion of the true demonic arts and Dark Shadow Chi, driven by his desire to unite the foundations of demonic arts with the secret techniques of the 10 great sects. His objective was to discover if these two powerful forces could harmonize as one cohesive entity, transcending their individual boundaries. Meanwhile, outside of Hajin's room, Dongpil diligently went about his cleaning duties. He couldn't help but ponder the passage of time, realizing that 12 days had already elapsed since the young lord had secluded himself within his quarters. Hajin had explicitly instructed Dongpil not to disturb him under any circumstances. Curiosity swirled within Dongpil's mind as he contemplated the activities transpiring behind the closed doors. He wondered what Hajin could possibly be engrossed in, devoting such an extended period of time to solitude. Deep in the midst of his training, Hajin's thoughts raced as he witnessed the convergence of martial arts and felt the divine compatibility unfolding before him. The fusion of the true demonic arts and Dark Shadow Chi birthed a new martial art, one that surpassed the destructive power of Dark Shadow Chi itself and promised greater stability than the true demonic arts alone could provide. With each step of the combination, a surge of demonic energy coursed through Hajin's body, electrifying his senses. It was a sensation he had never experienced before, a newfound martial prowess that held immense potential. Filled with anticipation, he christened this remarkable creation as the Dark Shadow Demonic Art, capturing the essence of its origins while embodying the darkness and power it possessed. Afterwards, the story takes us to a bamboo grove forest where Hajin and Dongpil are engaged in a fight against fierce beasts. Dongpil manages to defeat one of the monsters and expresses how dangerous the situation was. He realizes that continuing deeper into the forest would be too risky. Dongpil tells Hajin that his legs are completely exhausted, and he suggests that they retreat to the safety of the city bamboo garden for the rest of the day. Upon hearing Dongpil's concerns, Hajin pondered the information he had gathered about the beast. He remarked that the number of beasts present seemed too few to be considered a proper herd. However, their conversation was interrupted by the sound of approaching creatures. It turned out to be a massive herd of beast monsters, far exceeding their expectations. Sensing the danger, Dongpil urged Hajin to retreat. However, Hajin's perspective differed. He saw an opportunity in this challenging situation, recognizing that he needed to refine his new martial art to escape from the clutches of the demon cult. Though he understood Dongpil's valid point about his drained internal chi from battling beasts throughout the day, Hajin made a resolute decision. Determined to push himself to the limit and become stronger, Hajin embraced the challenge before him. Drawing upon his newfound dark shadow demon art, he unleashed his skills, swiftly eliminating the entire herd of beast monsters that threatened their safety. In the next scene, the heavenly demon and the first royal guard engaged in a conversation about the third young lord. The demon lord received a report stating that the third young lord was hunting herds of azure lotuses and beast monsters in the solitary bamboo grove. This intrigued the demon lord, who remarked that if the third young lord had mastered the black dragon technique, it would have been challenging for him to escape the beast's terrifying cries. However, the demon lord believed that the techniques of blood flame and capturing heavens were too sharp and heavy, respectively, and did not suit the third young lord. The technique Red Phoenix might be more suitable, but the demon lord speculated that if the third young lord had a discerning eye, he wouldn't have mastered that technique either. Curiosity sparked within the demon lord, prompting him to inquire of the first royal guard whether he had given any of the secret texts on demonic arts from the secret library. The first royal guard, filled with remorse, apologized for accessing the secret library without the demon lord's prior permission. Upon learning of the situation, the demon lord turned his attention to the first royal guard and instructed him to raise his head, indicating his authority to access the secret library. The demon lord then questioned the first royal guard, inquiring if he regretted granting the third young lord access to the secret library. The first royal guard responded with a clear no. In response, the demon lord asked the first royal guard if he was willing to shoulder the full responsibility for his decision. The first royal guard confidently replied with a resolute yes. Hearing this, the demon lord expressed his respect for the first royal guard's choice, acknowledging the weight of the responsibility that he had willingly accepted. The heavenly demon then poured alcohol and asked the first royal guard if he knew why a child's fight is more frightening than an adult's fight. It's because children don't know when to stop, making it scarier. The demon lord then explained that they believe honor is important, no matter the cost. When a child learns the right boundaries in a fierce battle, despite their lack of knowledge, they grow into a mature person. Meanwhile, Hajin fought against the beast. Using his powerful technique, he struck the beast and defeated them one by one. When the beast approached Dongpil, Hajin swiftly used his dark shadow demonic arts to cut them down. After defeating the beast, Hajin warned Dongpil not to lower his guard. He explained that the monster beasts were merely a large group, and he considered the constant use of his dark shadow demonic arts to be effortless. Hajin even believed that he could attempt the challenging heart of the solitary bamboo grove at this rate. While Hajin was contemplating, another monster suddenly attacked Dongpil on the head, causing him to lose consciousness. Hajin then wondered where that monster came from. Upon observing the creature, Hajin questioned if it resembled a horse. As he examined the horse-like monster, Hajin realized he couldn't underestimate it like he did with the previous chicken monster. Dongpil had managed to greatly enhance his inner strength in the past few days by constantly battling these beasts, yet this monster had effortlessly incapacitated him with a single strike. This creature is far stronger than any we have encountered thus far. Realizing the situation he was in, he mustered all his strength to confront the monster right from the beginning. However, before he could make a move, the horse monster delivered a powerful blow to Hajin, sending him flying towards a bamboo tree. Upon experiencing that fierce attack, Hajin realized that the horse monster had yet to unleash its maximum speed. As Hajin prepared to battle the horse monster again, he noticed that his right arm was completely broken. The monster then launched an attack on Hajin. In that moment, Hajin thought to himself that he wouldn't even be able to attempt a single strike at this rate. Just when Hajin believed things were going well, this unfortunate situation occurred. He shouldn't have let his guard down in the forest. Just as the monstrous horse was about to attack Hajin, a sword soared through the air and struck the horse's head. The one who threw the sword was none other than Dongpil. The horse then noticed Dongpil and began charging towards him. Dongpil also started running. While the horse monster and Dongpil were in a race, Dongpil spotted a particular spot on the ground and leaped over it. Consequently, the horse monster fell into a trap. Dongpil approached to check if the horse monster was dead, but to his surprise, it was still alive. Upon witnessing the horse monster's resilience, Dongpil was shocked and berated it for daring to harm the young lord's precious body. Initially considering beheading the monster as punishment, Dongpil changed his mind after studying its condition and swiftly ran to save the young lord. After an interval of 8 months, the narrative moves to the court of elders in the heavenly demon divine cult, where the first leader returns from his guard duty. Upon sighting him, the second leader advises him to take some rest. While their conversation unfolds, the second leader inquires about the purpose of the visit by the patriarch of the Demon Sword family. The first leader admits his uncertainty but emphasizes the patriarch's significance, suggesting that he might have something important to discuss with the leaders of the cult. It is rumored that the Demon Sword family is attempting to secure a position for their eldest son as one of the disciples of the Demon Lord. While it may not be confirmed, the possibility is plausible given that 2 of the disciples come from the 7 families. When considering loyalty alone, the Demon Sword family stands out as the most remarkable. The Lord has placed great trust in them, so the first leader believes that special considerations must be made. They happen to be one of the esteemed families within the cult, known for possessing the strongest forces as well. The second leader inquired, "Will the Lord accept another disciple? He already has 7 of them." The first leader responded by saying that he doesn't know. It is up to the Lord to decide. The second leader then remarked, "That's true, but perhaps there will still be 7 disciples in the end." The first leader asked for clarification on what he meant. The second leader explained that the third young lord, who is currently suffering from chi blockage, has lost his martial prowess. Furthermore, he is currently residing in the solitary bamboo grove, which indicates that he is far from being in a winning position in the race at this point. Upon learning that the first leader expressed concern over the statement, the second leader responded by acknowledging the perilous nature of the solitary bamboo grove. Ultimately, they remained uncertain about the return of the third young lord. Without the Lord's permission, there was a possibility of being trapped there indefinitely. Upon hearing this, the first leader instructed the second leader to cease immediately, emphasizing the potential consequences if anyone were to overhear. The first leader then explained that this was precisely why they had dispatched the third leader. Among all of them, he was the most suitable candidate for the solitary bamboo grove and had been sent based on the orders of the master of the court of elders. While they were engaged in conversation, an individual approached and informed them of the arrival of the third leader. Their faces lit up with joy upon hearing the news, and they eagerly requested the immediate presence of the third leader. Before long, Dongpil arrived and extended his greetings to them. However, the first and second leaders were taken aback by the alarming intensity of Dongpil's ominous and murderous aura. This prompted them to ponder whether this person before them was indeed the third leader, as Dongpil's overwhelming display of murderous intent was impossible to conceal. Their thoughts then shifted to contemplating the drastic changes that must have occurred in the solitary bamboo grove over the past 8 months to have transformed Dongpil to such an extent. After spending a considerable amount of time in the same location, Dongpil meticulously counted the herbs, confirming that he had gathered enough. Grateful for the assistance, he expressed his gratitude to the first leader. Curious about Dongpil's purpose for collecting cave pine tea leaves, the first leader inquired about the reason behind his task. Dongpil responded, explaining that he was merely following the orders of the young master, who had specifically instructed him to procure the leaves. Recognizing Dongpil's dedication and hard work, the leaders commended him, acknowledging that his efforts would benefit the young master. Although they expressed a desire to share a drink and engage in conversation, Dongpil regretfully declined, citing his lack of time. The leaders accepted his apology without argument, and the second leader kindly asked if Dongpil was experiencing any difficulties. However, they quickly realized that Dongpil was capable of handling any challenge that came his way. Following their conversation, Dongpil bid farewell to the first and second leader, their gaze lingering on him as he departed. As Dongpil made his way from the vicinity, the leaders initiated a discussion, intrigued by the unsettling aura of hostility that seemed to emanate from him. They couldn't help but observe that such a strong murderous intent was not ordinary. Speculating on its origins, they attributed it to Dongpil's prolonged exposure to the harsh and unforgiving conditions of the bamboo forest. Nonetheless, they acknowledged that despite these challenging circumstances, Dongpil appeared to be in good health, which surprised them. Deep in thought, the first leader held firm in his belief that as the third leader, Dongpil would inevitably return even more formidable and stronger than before. The scene then shifted to the solitary bamboo forest, where Dongpil swiftly advanced through the dense woods. As he ran, he felt a lightness and an undeniable sense of newfound strength. The arduous trials he endured in the bamboo grove had elevated his skills to the next level. Lost in his thoughts, he suddenly noticed an obstruction in his path, prompting him to abruptly brake with his foot. Coming to a complete stop, he examined the area more closely, as he had glimpsed movement. It seemed to be some kind of creature, its footsteps heavy and deliberate. Dongpil realized it wasn't the dreaded horse monster that he encountered before. The creature drew nearer, causing Dongpil to tightly grip his sword with both hands, assuming a defensive stance and preparing for a confrontation. As the creature finally emerged, Dongpil's initial intention was to swiftly sever its head, but then he noticed something peculiar. It turned out to be the third young lord, dragging an inexplicable creature tied to ropes. Dongpil's voice resonated through the forest as he called out to the third young lord, who promptly acknowledged his presence. Engaging in conversation, the young lord remarked that Dongpil could have taken his time to chat with his comrades. Observing the scene, Dongpil witnessed the young lord effortlessly dispatching yet another horse monster. The young lord explained how his boredom had prompted him to take a leisurely stroll, during which he encountered the horse monster roaming around. Consumed by anger and haunted by their previous encounter, he couldn't allow the creature to escape. Expressing his intentions, the young lord declared that horse meat would grace their dinner table that night, instructing Dongpil to prepare the pots upon their return. Dongpil fell silent for a moment, and then he mustered the courage to speak up, politely requesting the young lord to remove the cast from his right arm, as it appeared to be completely healed. As Dongpil's thoughts drifted, he recalled the countless instances when the young lord had asked him to tend to his needs, such as making his bed and feeding him due to his arm injury. Dongpil had willingly taken on these tasks, believing that the young lord was unable to manage them on his own. However, hearing the young lord's comment about relying on him too heavily left Dongpil contemplating his role. Moments later, the young lord settled upon a stone, assuming a meditative posture, while Dongpil diligently washed dishes in a large pot nearby. As Dongpil observed the young lord deep in meditation, he couldn't help but marvel at the incredible feat accomplished by the third young lord. He single-handedly defeating a horse monster. Yet, in this treacherous realm filled with monstrous creatures surpassing the abilities of even the most skilled practitioners from the demon cult, he pondered whether anyone would truly believe the young lord's remarkable survival from the chi blockage. This place teemed with monsters, far surpassing the capabilities of even the most formidable peak masters within the demon cult. Shortly after the completion of his meditation, the third young lord concluded his inner training, and Dongpil cautiously approached him from behind to inquire if he had finished. The sudden sound of Dongpil's voice startled the young lord, causing a momentary fright as he had been caught off guard. Curious about Dongpil's intentions, the third young lord inquired what Dongpil was about to say this time. In response, Dongpil expressed his acknowledgement of the young lord's strength, but reminded him of his promise not to venture into dangerous locations alone. The third young lord then expressed his concerns to Dongpil, explaining that he was running out of time. Perplexed, Dongpil asked for clarification on what he meant by that. The young lord then elaborated, describing the mysterious and perilous nature of the place they were in. The atmosphere was saturated with an intensely concentrated spiritual energy, which not only gave rise to spiritual bamboo and spiritual beasts but also had transformative effects on the people present. Despite their efforts, achieving significant physical progress within a mere 8 months was an impossible task. This was precisely why the Solidarity Bamboo Forest was so dangerous. While the bamboo and beast had adapted seamlessly to the environment, the same could not be said for humans. The young lord then asked Dongpil how long he thought it took for his arm to heal after being broken. Dongpil responded by saying, the bone was broken and dislocated, so it must have taken at least 2 months. The young lord corrected him, saying it only took 1 week, and the injuries he sustained from hunting the horse monster disappeared in less than 2 hours. Dongpil was shocked to hear this because it was not normal. Young lord then explained, when the skin breaks, the body heals the wound. But if the healing process is accelerated to the extreme and the body keeps healing even though the wound has already fully healed, it will eventually explode. That's the environment of the solitary bamboo grove. It's beneficial for growth to a certain extent, but the human body cannot withstand it. After hearing all of that, Dongpil was shocked and asked the young lord if he was saying that the healing powers of the solitary bamboo grove were becoming stronger. The young lord explained that it was the spiritual chi filled within the grove. In about 2 to 3 months, the spiritual chi within the grove would become so powerful that it would be unbearable for humans. They needed to leave this place before then unless Dongpil wanted to explode and die. Dongpil responded, saying that young lord couldn't go back home until the demon lord permitted it. The young lord clarified that the demon lord had only instructed him to go to the solitary bamboo grove without giving him a timeline for when to return. Initially, the demon lord had granted the young lord a request, and this place was the perfect spot for him to get some fresh air. The young lord then informed Dongpil that if they defeated about 2 more beasts, they would be able to reach the heart of the solitary bamboo grove, a place they had not been before. It was there that the leaders harvested the best spiritual bamboo. Within the next 3 months, he needed to obtain them. The scene then shifted to the 4th young lord, who was contemplating the situation concerning the 3rd young lord, Sirang. To his surprise, he discovered that Sirang was still alive. The one who informed him of this fact was none other than the heavenly demon himself. Upon hearing that the 3rd young lord was alive and located in the solitary bamboo grove, the 4th young lord couldn't help but ponder the extraordinary turn of events. He then reflected on the fact that Sirang had barely managed to survive a chi blockage, and even the medicine had failed to take effect. And now, Sirang had become strong enough to endure the perils of the solitary bamboo grove. It didn't make any sense to the 4th young lord. Adding to his astonishment, the heavenly demon revealed his intention to summon the 3rd young lord soon, leaving the 4th young lord thoroughly shocked. The situation left the 4th young lord feeling irritated and exasperated. He couldn't help but think, does that mean all the trouble I went through to eliminate the 3rd young lord was all for nothing? Frustrated by the turn of events, the 4th young lord made a firm decision. This time, when the 3rd young lord returned, he would ensure that Sirang met his demise and became nothing more than a lifeless corpse. The scene smoothly transitions back to the 3rd young lord, who receives the items he had requested from Dongpil. As he examines the offerings, a satisfied expression crosses his face. He expresses his gratitude to Dongpil, acknowledging that he managed to procure not only 5 pouches of turbid elimination herbs, but also the special request he had made for the cave pine tea. With a hint of surprise, the young lord then reveals that he discovered a remarkable knowledge of the cave pine tea upon arriving at this location. Its aroma possesses the ability to ward off the menacing beasts and monsters that roam the area. Dongpil, intrigued by this revelation, inquires about the young lord's intention behind acquiring the turbid elimination herbs. The young lord then explains that he believes there is a purpose for everything, implying that the herbs serve a specific role in his plans. Pleased with the quality of the herbs he received, he asks Dongpil if it would be possible to acquire more turbid elimination herbs in the future. However, Dongpil hesitates to provide a definite answer, explaining that the Demon God's Palace Pharmacy is currently engaged in researching the ratio of the Supreme Healing Potion, which relies heavily on this herb as a primary ingredient. Dongpil further reveals that obtaining additional supplies of the turbid elimination herbs will take at least 2 more months due to the extensive research process. Consequently, he cannot guarantee an immediate availability of the herbs for the young lord's future needs. Upon hearing Dongpil's response, the third young lord's eyes widen with surprise. He quickly poses a question to clarify, asking if the turbid elimination herbs are going to be used in the creation of the Supreme Healing Potion. Dongpil confirms his assumption, replying with a simple yes. Realization dawns on the young lord as he connects the dots. He recalls his own experience after awakening, where the physician had made him drink the elixir, known as the Supreme Healing Potion, for 3 consecutive months. He acknowledges that the turbid elimination herbs possess the remarkable ability to eliminate any impurities or turbidity within the body, precisely as their name implies. His voice tinged with concern, the young lord points out the extraordinary potency of the turbid elimination herbs. Not only do they purge the body of impurities, but they also have the power to combat even demonic energy. He expresses disbelief that such a potent potion was administered to a patient who was on the verge of death due to chi blockage. The young lord emphasizes that while the turbid elimination herbs' effects might be tolerable for a healthy body, they would prove fatal to a weakened individual. With a touch of frustration, the young lord criticizes the decision to prescribe such a potion, emphasizing that anyone with even the slightest medical knowledge would know better than to administer it under those circumstances. Curiosity piqued, the third young lord then turns his attention to another matter and inquires about the silken clarifying needle. Dongpil proceeds to explain that the silken clarifying needle is a form of acupuncture specifically used to stimulate and tighten muscles when they have become too loose. Dongpil recalls having experienced this procedure a few times before embarking on certain missions, where he would warm up his body using the circulating arts. He remembers it not being too difficult and having a reasonably positive effect based on his past encounters with it. However, as Dongpil's explanation sinks in, shock washes over the young lord. He realizes that they administered the Supreme Healing Potion, which contains turbid elimination herbs, to a body that was at its weakest state. Furthermore, they employed the silken clarifying needle on a body that was already rigid. Such an incongruous combination leaves the young lord astounded, and he finds himself questioning who could have authorized such a course of action. With a sense of doubt, the young lord speculates that the physician alone may not have been responsible for these decisions. It seems likely that it was orchestrated by a high-level executive or one of the disciples. As he delves further into his thoughts, a recollection resurfaces, the younger sister of the fourth young lord, who had come to see him immediately upon awakening. The pieces fall into place, and the third young lord realizes that the fourth young lord is the one who attempted to take his life. The scene smoothly transitions to the conversation between the fourth young lord and his physician. Curiosity brimming, the fourth young lord poses a question, asking the physician if he knows the most challenging place to infiltrate within the cult. The physician, catching on, responds by mentioning the solitary bamboo grove. In response, the fourth young lord affirms that the solitary bamboo grove is indeed impregnable. Even high-level executives are prohibited from entering without the master's explicit permission. However, the fourth young lord clarifies that his query pertains not to physical access, but rather the possibility of placing spies or informants within that secretive location. The physician then ponders for a moment and suggests that the military office might be the most suitable option for such infiltration. He shares the information he has gathered, explaining that the general strategist exercises such tight control over the organization that not even the demonic elders can influence or interfere with them. However, the fourth young lord counters, asserting that the military office is actually a relatively easy organization to infiltrate. He reveals that the general strategist overseeing the military office is hailed as a genius of this century. In fact, the general strategist possesses a remarkable ability to uncover the hidden intentions of infiltrators and discern the dynamics of power struggles. Consequently, he does not actively prevent anyone from infiltrating the military office. But not everyone chooses to do so due to the certainty that the general strategist will expose their true motives. The fourth young lord then conveyed to the physician that the Court of Elders stands apart as a distinct organization. Its sole purpose is to safeguard the demon lord and the cult, unlike other organizations that tend to shift allegiances based on those in power. Interfering with them is equivalent to directly challenging the demon lord, rendering them untouchable and disregarded by everyone else. However, the fourth young lord made an oversight by not acknowledging their significance. Perplexed, the physician expressed that he didn't comprehend the intended message behind the fourth young lord's words. The fourth young lord then revealed to the physician that Xiaoryang, the third discipline of the heavenly demon, was still alive. The physician was taken aback by this information, exclaiming that the third young lord had been banished to the solitary bamboo grove over 8 months ago. Undeterred, the fourth young lord explained that he had heard rumors about an experienced and talented individual being dispatched to guard Xiaoryang. If only he had made contact with them earlier, he believed he could have successfully eliminated Xiaoryang. Reflecting on the situation, the fourth young lord realized that before being sent to the solitary bamboo grove, the third young lord possessed a physique that was in its prime. However, it was only comparable to an ordinary civilian without any martial arts training. This led the fourth young lord to wonder what kind of sorcery the third young lord had employed to survive for 8 months in such harsh conditions with an untrained body. The fourth young lord then issued a command to the physician, instructing him to assemble their forces and gather an ample supply of weapons. Despite facing obstacles like chi blockage, poison, and the treacherous demonic forest, none of them were able to bring about the demise of the resilient third young lord. Today marked the final day for the fourth young lord to wait passively. In response, the physician inquired if the fourth young lord would personally involve himself in the upcoming battle. The fourth young lord replied that direct involvement was not his intention, as he wished to avoid a chaotic and messy confrontation. There were individuals who would willingly fight on his behalf, those driven by a deep-seated desire for vengeance against Xiaoryang dating back to before his chi blockage. These individuals would be given the means to wield swords, and it was up to them to decide whether to seek out Xiaoryang with the weapons they had been provided. The fourth young lord considered this plan to be ingenious and promising. In the upcoming scene, the third young lord prepared himself to venture into the depths of the solitary bamboo grove, fully aware that time was of the essence. He assured Dongpil that he would return shortly, advising him to remain where he is. However, Dongpil, concerned for the young lord's safety, attempted to dissuade him. Dongpil emphasized that they were unaware of the type of beasts that resided within the heart of the solitary bamboo grove. Undeterred, the third young lord responded, stating that regardless of the dangers that awaited them, it did not alter the fact that time was running out, and he was determined not to give up on the spiritual bamboo present there. After expressing this to Dongpil, the third young lord pondered to himself the potential consequences he might face if he were to return to the cult under current circumstances, fearing the unknown actions the fourth lord might take against him. Witnessing the young lord's unwavering determination, Dongpil pledged to inquire about the beasts within the solitary bamboo grove and how to prepare for them. However, the young lord dismissed the need for such knowledge, questioning why Dongpil believed the demon lord had specifically gathered high-level executives to harvest the spiritual bamboo. If it were possible to make preparations, any demonic human could have been sent instead. The reason behind selecting the high-level executives was that there was no point in sending anyone unless they possessed strength on par with the cult elite. Dongpil, still concerned, attempted to dissuade the young lord, acknowledging his impressive growth but emphasizing that he still fell short of the demonic elders from the Senate. The young lord agreed with Dongpil's assessment, acknowledging his inferiority to the powerful 9 demonic elders, the strongest individuals in the cult. However, he possessed a talent they did not: the dark shadow arts, the dark god phantom, and the stealth technique of the assassin king, Chun Hajin. As an experienced assassin during the war, he was renowned for his proficiency in the stealth technique, considering himself the world's greatest. Although he had not needed to use it during the 8 months spent in the solitary bamboo grove, which he considered a training ground rather than a war zone, the heart of the grove was a realm of mystery, no longer just a training ground. It was a place of life and death struggle, where he needed to achieve his objectives through any means necessary. However, since he had transformed the dark shadow chi into a demonic art, he could no longer freely utilize the dark god phantom. This was why he required the turbid elimination herbs, to partially suppress the demonic energy and activate the dark god phantom. Once he consumed the herbs, he would have half an hour. Judging by the size of the solitary bamboo grove, the young lord believed that half an hour would be more than enough time to reach the heart. With their preparations made, the young lord and Dongpil proceeded toward the heart of the solitary bamboo grove. However, an abrupt interruption occurred as the third young lord urged Dongpil to halt. Recognizing the location as where he had last hunted the horse monster, the young lord believed it to be the entrance to the heart. As they continued onward, the spiritual energy of the forest grew denser, accompanied by a putrid stench. Dongpil soon discovered the source of the foul odor. It was the lifeless bodies of the beast monsters. All of them had perished, coughing up blood near the heart of the solitary bamboo grove. The shocking sight left Dongpil and the young lord utterly stunned, grappling with the unexpected turn of events before them. Soon, the third young lord approached Dongpil and shared a revelation. There were a few beasts they had never encountered before. Specifically, he spoke of a formidable creature known as the leopard beast, which held the highest rank in the solitary bamboo grove's hierarchy. Dongpil learned that this beast rarely ventured beyond the heart of the grove unless absolutely necessary, causing concern for both of them. Dongpil then informed the young lord that this creature possessed the second highest level of spiritual chi within the solitary bamboo grove. It was a beast shrouded in mystery, unseen even by the esteemed seniors. Dongpil couldn't believe that he would have the opportunity to witness such a magnificent creature firsthand. Inquisitive, the young lord asked Dongpil about the beast holding the highest position. In response, Dongpil pointed towards a nearby location and revealed its name, the Sundered Serpent, a snake adorned with 2 tails. However, upon seeing the serpent, the young lord expressed his underwhelmment, questioning its strength and lack of venomous appearance. He pondered the notion that even if it were the mightiest creature, it would eventually succumb to death, becoming just another lifeless body in the grove. Dongpil wholeheartedly agreed with the young lord's observation. Perplexed by the bizarre circumstances, the young lord expressed his concern, remarking on the peculiar nature of the deceased creatures before them. Their lifeless forms appeared defeated, yet devoid of any visible wounds. As the young lord pondered this enigma, their attention turned to the surrounding environment, noticing that even the once thriving spiritual bamboo near the heart of the grove had withered and perished. The young lord couldn't help but wonder who possessed the power to bring about such devastation, as if draining the life force from everything in this vicinity. Suddenly, a cool breeze brushed against the young lord's skin, causing him to become alert and sense a presence. Dongpil, noticing the change in the young lord's demeanor, inquired about his focus, but the young lord motioned for silence. The strange sensation emanated from the heart of the solitary bamboo grove itself. Determined, the young lord made a decision that he would venture forward alone from this point onward. He instructed Dongpil to remain in their current location and refrain from following, regardless of the circumstances that may unfold. Meanwhile, deep in chamber, the demon lord pondered the unexpected appearance of Jackal, questioning the purpose behind his arrival. It seemed unlikely that they would have any reason to cross paths. Soon, a sudden surge of power emanated from the demon lord, causing all the maids in the room to lose consciousness. Seizing control of the situation, the demon lord summoned the first guardian. Promptly responding to the summon, the first guardian arrived and respectfully greeted the demon lord. Curious about recent events, the demon lord inquired whether any of the guardians had ventured into the heart of the solitary bamboo grove during his solitary training. The first guardian firmly stated that no such incident had occurred. If such a significant event had taken place, the guardian assured the demon lord that he would have reported it earlier. The demon lord remained puzzled about Jackal's appearance, wondering about the underlying reasons behind it. Continuing the conversation, the demon lord asked the first guardian about the third leader who had accompanied the third disciple. The demon lord had heard that the third leader possessed remarkable qualities. The first guardian confirmed this, stating that despite the third leader's young age, he ranked among the strongest of the 10 masters in the Council of Elders. Endowed with natural talent, extensive experience, and a straightforward nature, the third leader exhibited remarkable qualities. Recognizing the exceptional qualities of the third leader, the first guardian concluded that he would be a perfect match to serve the third young lord. The demon lord, however, contemplated the passage of time. 8 months had elapsed, and even if the third leader had managed to seize an opportunity, there would still be limitations to their growth. This led the demon lord to wonder whether the presence of the third disciple played a role in the unfolding events. Seeking further insight, the demon lord inquired about the current date. The first guardian promptly replied that it was 1 day before the full moon. This information triggered contemplation in the demon lord's mind. Could the appearance of Jackal be connected to the lunar cycle? Furthermore, the demon lord questioned whether the third disciple's actions were driven by insatiable greed, leading them blindly towards his own death. As uncertainty loomed, the demon lord pondered the intricate web of motivations and potential consequences surrounding the unfolding situation. The scene transitioned to the third young lord, venturing deeper into the heart of the bamboo grove. Curiosity overwhelmed him as he observed something peculiar in the distance, accompanied by a chilling and formidable chi carried within the wind. The closer he approached the heart of the grove, the stronger this unsettling energy became. Its intensity threatened to destabilize him, making it increasingly difficult to maintain his balance. In the midst of this overwhelming sensation, the young lord's mind recalled a similar experience, an encounter with the demon lord for the first time. The aura emanating from the wind bore a striking resemblance to that fateful meeting, leaving a profound impact on him. It evoked a sense of impending doom, an overwhelming presence reminiscent of death itself. This wind carried an unyielding strength, akin to the dangerous and enigmatic Li Chansang. However, the young lord recognized that just as encountering Li Chansang had its rewards, this treacherous path held promises of its own, waiting to be discovered. With determination in his heart, the young lord steeled himself against the daunting chi and pressed forward, eager to uncover the mysteries that lay ahead. Under the immense pressure, the young lord couldn't withstand the force any longer, resulting in the expulsion of blood from his mouth. Despite cloaking himself in demonic energy, he was still afflicted by internal injuries. This realization left him bewildered. What formidable presence resided within that he could not contend with using his current demonic power? Without wasting a moment, the young lord swiftly retrieved the turbid elimination herb, a potent remedy capable of suppressing his demonic energy. As he consumed the herb, its effects spread throughout his body, gradually diminishing the demonic energy that had once enveloped him. With each passing moment, he felt a sense of lightness, as if the weight had been lifted. the wind now freely passed through his body. At this moment, the young lord tapped into the power of the dark shadow arts, Dark God Phantom, a stealth technique mastered by the world's greatest assassin king, Chun Hajin, during his previous life's peak. This ancient technique granted him an ethereal presence, rendering him virtually undetectable as he continued his journey. As the wind weakened and the demonic energy subsided, Dongpil was left perplexed, wondering what had transpired. The young lord had vanished from his sight, leaving Dongpil to question the sudden changes in the surroundings. Meanwhile, Hajin, immersed in the realm of the dark god Phantom, moved swiftly and silently through the dense bamboo grove. Relieved by the dissipation of the pressure, he realized he had sufficient time to reach the heart of the grove before the effects of the turbid elimination herbs wore off. While making his way through the labyrinth of bamboo, Hajin effortlessly passed through rocks, moving like a ghostly presence. However, his progress was unexpectedly halted as he felt a peculiar sensation in his leg, causing him to stumble and fall to the ground. In that moment, Hajin's mind raced with disbelief. This shouldn't have happened. How could he trip over a mere rock while employing the Dark God Phantom technique? Frustration welled within him as he speculated whether the rock possessed some sort of spiritual property. As Hajin inspected the object that caused his fall, he was astonished to discover something he had never anticipated. It's a slumbering yellow fox lying peacefully on the ground. Upon encountering the fox, the third young lord was puzzled by its presence in such a formidable place. Recalling Dongpil's earlier warning that the deeper he ventured into the solitary bamboo grove, the stronger the beasts would become, he realized that this seemingly insignificant fox could, in fact, be the most powerful creature within the entire grove. Recognizing the need to be cautious and not judge the fox by its appearance, he reminded himself not to let his guard down. Despite the fox's adorable slumber, the young lord resisted the temptation to pet it, knowing he had to stay focused on his mission. He resolved to continue on his way and decided to check on the little fox again later, perhaps trying to wake it from its peaceful slumber. Eventually, the young lord arrived at the heart of the bamboo grove, only to find it smaller than he had anticipated. Nevertheless, as he walked through the thickets of bamboo, he noticed a difference in these particular spiritual bamboos. They were precisely what he had been searching for. Determined to harness their power, he immersed himself in the heart of the bamboo grove, ready to delve into the depths of the mysterious energy that resided within. As the young lord's hand made contact with the bamboos, he was taken aback by the tremendous surge of spiritual chi emanating from them. The concentration of this energy was unparalleled, and he could feel its potency coursing through his senses. These were the very spiritual bamboos he had been tirelessly searching for within the solitary bamboo grove. If he could purify just 3 of them, he might achieve the pinnacle of martial prowess, becoming the strongest in terms of internal energy. However, he quickly realized that his physical body was not yet strong enough to handle such a massive influx of chi, so he contemplated taking only 1 bamboo. The young lord soon noticed a bamboo shoot, contemplating why there was only 1 in this location. While pondering this, we noticed the fox still peacefully slumbering nearby. Determined to harness the pure spiritual chi within the bamboo shoot, young lord gently grasped it, realizing that he could absorb its essence without the need for the purification technique. As he then carefully unearthed the bamboo shoot, something unexpected occurred. The fox, seemingly undisturbed in its deep sleep, suddenly roused awake. Its eyes opened, revealing a mesmerizing gaze that held an air of wisdom and mystery. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it enjoyable. If you want to see the next part of this video, please let me know by liking this video and subscribing to my channel.